bodies, heavenly bodies, you talk about simple mathematics. And when you talk about moving heavenly bodies and the trajectories, then you need a very special science. You need calculus. I was talking about it yesterday also. You need calculus because then you have to see the rate of change. And Indians were so smart, so mathematically oriented, so scientifically oriented that around 300, 400 years before Sir Isaac Newton and Leibniz, the German mathematician, they had invented calculus. Because without calculus, you cannot predict the trajectory of the moon and the moon grahan, and these auspicious days cannot be calculated. So, science was interwoven in our way of life. With the Indian kind of scientific thinking, this was very, very unique. Another very unique thing was, in India, science was not prospered by a Western idea of making everything, a market product. Science was not a market product for us. It was meant to be a way of life. It was meant to be respected. And it was only something very, very great about Indians. It was not given free. It was given to the people who deserved it. And this was very, very strictly followed. Perhaps we have followed the same tradition. We still conduct the world's toughest exam in the whole world, JEE. And like JEE, long back, our great Indian universities, Takshila, they had an entrance exam. And the story goes that if you wanted an admission in Takshila, the person who stands at the guard, used to interview you. This interview was called Shastrat. So you would have Shastrat with him. If you could not, answer his question, you were not allowed entry to the great university of Takshila. And mind you, the great universities of Nalanda and Takshila existed for more than 700, 800, about 1,000 years before they were destroyed. So that's the legacy of the great Indian knowledge system. So I was talking about this calculus, and I also found out that there is a great Indian mathematician, not Aryabhata or Varah Manir, but somebody called Madhvacharya. You can Google it and see who was Madhvacharya. Madhvacharya was one who first invented calculus 300, 400 years before Sir Isaac Newton and Leibniz. And I'm just not saying for the sake of saying. The sine, cosine and the tan series, the infinite series, are now called Madhvacharya, Leibniz, Newton series. So that was the great Indian knowledge. This continued with respected Sir C.V. Raman. I don't know how much of you know about the Raman effect. Not very many of us know. Just close your eyes, imagine yourself that you are in a country which is a slave country, right? And your name gets sponsored for the Nobel Prize, the most coveted prize on earth to a scientist. And what was the intellect of Sir C.V. Raman? He knew that he will get the Nobel Prize. He was very sure. Perhaps he got Nobel Prize in 1930, if I'm not wrong. But a year before, he had predicted that he will get Nobel Prize because he was in constant touch with the best European scientists at that time. But he did not get the Nobel Prize a year before. He was so annoyed that he had purchased his tickets also. Those days you had to purchase a ticket, those ship's tickets, so you had to purchase them in advance. He was very sure he was going to get a Nobel Prize. He had purchased his tickets. When he learned that he hasn't got Nobel Prize, then he was very angry and tore off his entire tickets and all. Just imagine, do you know what was so great about Sir C.V. Raman's Raman effect? That scientists the world over were forced to give him a Nobel Prize. Actually, the Raman effect was the experimental proof of the quantum model. There was no experimental model. The proof only came. So they wanted him there because every bigwig, Rutherford and all, they wanted that model to be proved. And the experimental proof was the work of Sir C.V. Rao. So that is the great intellect of India. That's the great science we represent. And of course, pharmacy represents the best of the science. Because you deal with the life sciences. You deal with the well-being of man. Science does not just mean bringing prosperity. It also means the biggest prosperity is the health. And you deal in that particular area which looks after well-being of human health. So that's very important, and I'm extremely delighted today to be amongst you. And today, like I said, it's a very auspicious day and a very lucky day. Dr. Jishan talked about indigenous technologies for Viksit Bharat. Towards that, India has made a great stride. In the form, she spoke about India did Chandrayaan, it did Mangalyaan, and now it's Gaganyaan. Those of you who read the front page of Times of India today, India's 4 pilots, they have qualified to be the astronauts. Out of them, one of them is a lad from, not a lad, he's now 38 plus, is Wing Commander Shubhendru Shukla. He is going to be in the first Indian low orbit piloting vehicle. And there are 4 of them. He is from Lucknow. I think we need to clap and celebrate the science in Lucknow. And the fact that we have now started off Gaganyaan. You know, when a human being is put inside a scientific experiment, it is the most difficult thing because life is at stake. So everything has to be paramount. And these astronauts in space represent a great achievement of India. Let me tell you, it's going to be a great future for India. You and your children are the ones who are going to colonize planets, who are going to have, visits to Mars, who are going to buy property on Moon, and all those things which appear very fictitious are going to happen. And this indeed is the starting point. The great science of India that we are celebrating today, which has enabled us to launch Chandrayaan on the South Pole, and it has also enabled us to start with a very strong footing on putting a man on space, the mission Gaganyaan. So my good wishes to each and every one of you, because if Gaganyaan is going to succeed, it will not succeed because of space science. We know enough about space science. In the 1960s, America had launched a mission on Moon. It will succeed because of you people. You are the ones who are going to decide how the human beings will survive in space, how they will live in space, how biology will thrive in space, how plants will grow in the biospheres which are created on Moon, how we will use every molecule of water present on Moon and Mars effectively to propagate the human species if we have to breed it across the galaxies. So great time. My good wishes to each and every one of you. Please breathe this scientific temperament in your students, in your faculty members. God bless you all. Thank you. Jai Hind.